welcome. So this is an evening gentle yoga. It's going to be about 35 to 40 minutes or so, and then we'll do some shavasana. And I'm kind of thinking about this as kind of like, if you're kind of slowing down at the end of the day, and you want to take just a moment just to get mindful and get present before you kind of finish your evening and spend time with the fam or with a book or whatever you might do at the end of your day. This is a great kind of transition zone, maybe. So we'll do a little bit of movement. We'll do a little bit of kind of longer shapes, really relaxed. A couple of things that might be helpful. So if you have a yoga strap, we're going to use this near the end of the sequence to hold onto our foot. And these are really helpful. And just, it's something that it's not a huge investment because they're not as expensive. And it's a really great investment to make in your yoga practice. So if you don't have one, you can get yourself a yoga strap at some point. So yoga strap will be helpful. I have a couple blocks. I like blocks for some things. And then I also have some little throw pillows. And I think throw pillows make great yoga props. So if you have a couple of those could also be really useful. So I have one of those. I have a blanket. I have some blocks. Now, we're going to start in a seated position. And if it's helpful to sit propped up on something, you can take your blanket and fold it so that you have a little shelf to sit on, or you can sit on a throw pillow. So if it's not comfortable to sit cross-legged, you could sit with your legs stretched out in front of you, or some people actually prefer to sit sort of kneeling between their feet, and you can do it that way as well. Because for this opening part, any way you can sit comfortably will be good. Okay, so getting my blanket folded up so it's neat and tidy, because I will be using it momentarily. So the first thing I like to do in terms of getting seated is just kind of lean forward, shimmy a little side to side, see if I can find the kind of tippy tops of my sit bones, or the tippy bottoms of my sit bones, whichever one it might be. And then let your shoulders relax. You might, if it's helpful, you might rest your hands with the palms facing down. For me, this kind of creates a sense of calming, brings my mind a little bit more to stillness. If you're feeling a little sluggish, you might sit with your palms facing up. This keeps me a little more alert. So you can choose which one is the right one for you given the circumstances. You don't have to remain perfectly still. Maybe this is the chance that you have just to come home to your body and get present. You can feel how the shoulders are kind of hanging out with you. You can feel whether the posture you've had all day at work, if you've been at work all day, has been. You can also just check in and see if your mind has been kind of going off in different directions. Just coming home to the breath and to the body. We're going to take 2 more breaths, just kind of with this pausing here. Finding our seat on the planet. And even though there's a lot of people on the planet, this little spot right here, this is uniquely yours. So now let your chin fall toward your chest and keep yourself upright, right? Don't lean forward into it if you can help it. And then roll your head so that it goes up and over one shoulder. You can go back just as far as it feels okay to go, and then come back to the center and roll your head up and over the opposite shoulder. And then just come back to the center. So we're just going to go back and forth. Do that about 3 more times. when you get to the end of this, where you've gone back and forth over each shoulder those last few rounds, we're going to come back to the center, and you're going to just decide, am I going to go to the left or the right first? So my right side is a little tighter, so I'm going to do that one first. So I'm going to float my head up and then just essentially just lean it over to the side. And so leaning over to the side now, I'm going to take my right arm and kind of let that dangle a bit. So I'm just getting a little longer stretch on that right side of my neck. And I'm going to move my chin just a notch because I can, you know, like the cool thing to me about the neck is it doesn't take long for those muscles to really change. And then I'm going to roll my head a little bit the other direction. Okay, so now I'm feeling pretty good. So I'm going to come back to the center, pause for a moment and feel both my shoulders, float my head up. And for me, there's a little difference. Like the right side feels a little bit looser now, where it felt a little tighter before, but I'm still going to do my left side. So I'm going to bring my head over to the right, and then I'm going to take this left arm and let that drop off. And again, we're just noticing the sensations in the neck. You can roll the chin a little forward and bring the stretch around to the back side of the neck a bit. Oh, that's nice. And then for me, once that sort of lightens up, it gives me permission to roll my head the other direction, kind of get a little bit more towards this front side. Just being mindful and aware of not leaning too far into it with the rest of my body. I'm going to do 2 more breaths because that feels like the right amount. And then I'm going to come back to the center. And I'm going to let my head float up. Oh. Now, I'm going to work with the shoulders in a circle. So I'm going to bring my shoulders forward as far as I can get them to go. And I'm trying to get the shoulder blades way off into the armpits. And then I'm going to sweep them up towards my ears, sweep them around to the back, and try to squeeze them towards each other and lower them as far down as I can go. Sweeping them forward, up, back, and as low as they'll go. We're going to do that 3 more times. Just going in that direction. Okay, now when I get to the point where I was going to go forward this last time, I'm going to go the other direction. So now we'll move about 5 times in the other direction. Going backwards first, coming up and over the top. Going backwards, up and over the top. Okay, 3 more times. These feel so nice when I've been working on my computer too long. Oh. Okay, so now we're at the point where everything's kind of even. We're going to do one more thing. We're going to hunch the shoulders up and let them fall. Hunch them up, oh, let them fall. Hunch them up, oh, let them fall. Okay, now we're going to do a little sequence on the legs. So you're going to take your legs into this position where you've got 1 straight leg and 1 bent knee. Now, I am going to go a little wide with my legs. You can keep yours close together. And this is just a personal preference. Which way do you like your legs to go? I am going to take a blanket and roll it up and place it in here so that it goes under the knee of my straight leg and then under the thigh of my bent leg. And what that does for me is it gives me a little bit of support so I don't accidentally hyperextend this knee, and a little bit of support for this thigh so this knee has a little bit of structure to rest on. Now, right now I'm facing kind of down the center of this. So I'm going straight in the middle, both, thighs to the side. So that's the direction we're going to go in first. So we're going to fold in first, and it's possible that your fold won't be very big. We all have different bone structure, and some of us, our bone structure goes back like that. So our fold is going to be a little more in the back. If your pelvis will go forward, cool. You can also do some little modifications. So if you bend the straight leg more, even put a pillow under it, for some of us that'll be just enough bend to get the pelvis to start to move forward. So you can experiment with props and with pillows and blankets and ways to kind of get a little more ease in your body. And now that we're here, we're going to play with the spine a little bit. So I'm going to hunch my back like a cat. And then I'm going to draw my breastbone forward, and see if I can create like a little sense of this kind of cobra pose inside of this slight forward bend here, right? I'm not trying to get my nose to the ground here. I'm just bending forward as much as it sort of makes sense to my body. And then arching a little bit, bringing that breastbone forward, and we're gonna do that twice more. So we're gonna round through the back. Oh, feels good. And then lift, and I'm kind of pressing off into my fingertips a little bit. And then one more time, I'm gonna round through the back. And then I'm gonna lift up nice and tall. Now, that's gonna bring me up the rest of the way. And then once I'm here, I'm gonna do these little washing machine moves. Just kind of spin a bit at the ribs. And then we're gonna land turning towards this bent knee. And then we're gonna side bend out over the long leg. So this is my left leg, and my right arm is gonna sweep up. Okay, now I'm gonna do 3 things with my right arm in a circular motion. So first, I'm gonna bring my arm in front of me and bring the hand over towards this toe with my pinky finger pointing down, okay? So arm in front, and then sweep it over towards the long leg foot, pinky finger down. Then I'm gonna lift this arm up all the way up to the top so it's straight up in the air. Then I'm gonna go down so that it's sort of parallel to the floor. That's the 3rd position. And then back to my 1st position, pinky finger towards the floor, reaching toward that toe. Up, out to the 1st position. Up, out to the 1st position. I'm gonna do this one more time. Up, reach right there, out, reach right there. And when we come to this 1st position, we're gonna reach a little bit through the back and then come all the way back up. Okay, so those are the movements on that side. And now we're gonna rinse this whole thing out and do it on the other side. So I've straightened out both my legs. I've given my back a little bit of movement back and forth, a little side to side, little spins. I love these little spinny moves. It feels so good. When I was a little kid, I did that as a game. Trying to see if I could get my hands to go all the way around and touch my belly button from behind me. And it still feels good. Alrighty, so I have taken my legs the opposite direction. So I'm back in the same shape, but now my right leg is the straight leg and my left knee is the bent knee. And I've positioned myself so that I've got a bit of a V here. And again, you can make this package tighter. And for some of us, that's gonna be a better way to get the pelvis to come forward. All right, so coming forward, and then I make little adjustments so that I get like whatever sit bone arrangement I need. You need to put a little blanket under your hips, do that. And then we're pausing, and we're gonna do those little arching spine moves, right? So we're gonna round the back like a cat shape, and then bring the breastbone forward and lift up. And you can float up out of the pose a little bit to get that length and that sense of opening. Okay, then we're gonna round like a cat and open and stretch out the front part, like almost like a cobra pose. Good, so we're gonna round like a cat. Lift the heart. I'm gonna do that one more time. Round like a cat, and you can really get that rounded shape. And then we're gonna lift and really bring that breastbone up and keep lifting, lifting, lifting as you come all the way out of that shape. Okay. And once again, we're gonna leave the legs, but do the little washing machines. All right, so again, I'm gonna land, turn towards this bent knee, all right? So the bent knee is the direction that I'm gonna go in for at least that's where my arm is gonna go first, okay? So I'm gonna side bend out over this long leg. The arm is gonna sweep towards that bent knee, and then I'm gonna bring my pinky finger as far over as I can towards this 1st foot, pinky finger pointing toward the ground. Then I'm gonna reach up. I'm going to reach out to parallel, and then I'm going to swing it in front of that knee, come up, out to parallel, stretch through the whole thing. So this is smooth, and then this stretches, 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 and sweep. Okay, one more time. Stretch, stretch. And right here, linger and reach for the ceiling, And then as you come to this parallel point, stretch out, try to, open up that chest. And then we're gonna come back to here, and we're gonna, just kind of reach across with the back. And then come all the way up all together. Okay, whoops, hello. And then we're gonna straighten out the legs, and give this a little shimmy. Now, we're gonna come to our back, and there's a couple of different thoughts that I have about this. So one, this is where you're gonna need your strap. Two, it might be nice to either have a blanket or a pillow to put underneath the leg we're not gonna use. I'm gonna keep this blanket as it is rolled up, and I also have a blanket here for my head to go on. So I'm gonna set this beside me, I'm gonna set the strap beside me so they're both where I want them, and then I'm gonna bring myself onto my back so that I've got a little bit of head support, but not so much that my chin is pointing down. I want the chin to be level here, and I just want enough head support that the, whatever little, I have a little knob on the back of my skull, like whatever little ridges or knobs or slight adjustments that you might need, those are handled. So you're able to lay with your head quite even. It'll feel better to your nervous system if your head is in a neutral position, okay? If your head is jacked up like this, or tucked in like this, that creates some trouble for the nervous system where it comes out of the, literally out of the back of the brain here, which is that part of our brain that's really subject to emotions. That's sort of being subject to that kind of anxiety, sort of limbic animal brain. So we want the skull nicely supported, and that gives us a chance to really relax, and when we get to Shavasana, that's going to be really important. Okay, so right now I have both of my legs positioned so that my feet are on the floor, and I'm going to leave it like this for now. I'm going to take my right leg into my hands. If I can, I'm going to hold on. If I can't hold on, you can either just rest a hand on the top of the knee, the shin, the thigh, or you can use your strap, wrap it around your thigh, and you can hold on to the strap, okay? So for now, this leg stays bent, so I just have a nice neutral pelvis. I'm going to spin the ankle joint here on my right foot, and then some nice juicy circles. And then I'm going to go the other direction. However big a circle your ankle joint will make, and then point and flex your foot a few times. You can point it off to the sides, flex it back, so going straight up and down or sort of off to the sides, whatever seems appropriate. Okay, so now either you're just going to hang on to this leg and then stretch this other leg all the way out, and we're going to see if we can feel a stretch right across the front of the hip here. Or if you want to add on to that, you can reach in here, grab this foot so that it's sort of like you're lunging upside down. And then this leg, this long leg right here that's stretched out on the floor, we're going to stretch that whole side out, arm and everything. Give it a good long reach. Oh. 2 more breaths. Oh, it feels good. All right, so we're going to release this foot a little bit, release this foot all the way. Now this is where you could either hold onto your big toe and straighten that leg out, or this is where the strap will come in handy. But before we get to here, I'm going to put the strap on my foot, and I'm going to take this blanket and put it underneath my other leg, so that when this leg stretches out, I don't have that same amount of pressure that I was just getting stretching it. I want it to be a little more relaxed, okay? So I can really focus on this leg. All right, so holding onto the strap in whatever way, or whatever you've got. You got a dog leash, use a dog leash. But whatever you can hold on to. Hold on to your foot, hold on to your thigh. So we're going to notice that in certain instances, like if I turn my toes that way, it changes the way it feels on the back of my thigh versus turning my toes in, okay? So I get a little bit more sensation around the inside when I'm doing this part. If I go that way, I feel a little bit more on the outside. If I pull my foot down and push up on my heel, I get a lot more sensation in the calf muscles. If I point my toes, much less, all right? So you're gonna sort of salt this pose to taste and decide how you want the sensation to go. I always have tighter calf muscles than hamstrings, so I back off of my hamstrings and dig into my calves. And that's my favorite flavor. slightly longer than that, pretty close. You can bend your knee and straighten the leg back out. It doesn't have to be totally static. Now there's some benefit to stretching for the length of time, but that length of time doesn't necessarily have to be totally a static stretch. So we're going to stay for, you know, at the minimum really, which is about 90 seconds, but the stretch itself can be a little bit more of a dynamic stretch. Okay, so we're going to take one big breath here, and then we're taking this leg out to the side. Now, out to the side, if you want to have a little bit of extra support, you can take a pillow, for example, and put that underneath your thigh, or you can use a yoga block in the same way, so that you have a little bit of something to land on. And then I like to engage a little bit through my core muscles just to hold this hip steady on the floor. I'm not necessarily over-engaging the leg, but I'm going to try to use the sides of my waist to just kind of hold me steady so that my hip doesn't fly up off the ground. It's sneaky core work, but that's what these deep abdominal muscles are for, is actually stabilizing the body. They don't move the body, they stabilize it. Find like a little bit more rotated to the toes up or a little bit more rotated down is going to be a better situation for this stretch. So you can make those little modifications. You can also bend the knee and straighten the leg periodically. So I'm going to stay for about 30 more seconds here. I like these stretches and taking nice deep breaths and sort of feeling how the length of time it takes me to inhale, everything changes a little bit as you go. So like there's like a tiny bit more sensation at the very tippy top of the inhale, and then as the exhale happens, there's this sense of just, oh, it's very nice. It's cool, cool sensation. All right, so we're taking a big breath, and then we're going to come back to the center. Now we're going to release the strap, and we're going to take the knees and just bring both knees in. Put this top leg a little bit over the right leg, a little bit over the left leg, okay? And then you're going to take your legs over to the left, and you can, like I've done here, kind of take a blanket or a pillow and position it so your legs have a landing pad. And then you can stretch this arm out, so we get a little bit of stretch through the pecs, a little bit of stretch through this outer hip, but we're also being kind of kind to the spine here at the end of the day. So it's a more gentle twist, a little less aggressive. About 2 more breaths. We're going to bring this top leg back first, and then the bottom leg's going to follow us. And I'm just going to put that pillow off to the side for a second, and also just reorganize my blanket here. Okay, so stretch out both legs, and this is my favorite point, which is just become mindful of what happened, okay? How does this side feel compared to this side? And this kind of, to me, it feels like it's gently been lengthened, like that leg feels a little longer than the other one. If I measured them, they wouldn't be, but it feels like that. And the other thing I find really interesting is like the top of this hip feels like it's lower than the top of this hip. Now if I put my hands up here, they're exactly the same, but it feels different. And so those are the kinds of things I like to pay attention to. So there's a subtle release that visibly may not be there, but that you can feel in the body, okay? So we're gonna bring that right foot to the floor, And we're going to bring this left leg in so we can do the other side, so we're a little more on the even. And then we're going to spin this left foot in circles. Now if you did it backwards and you did your left foot first, no worries, just do the other side. It really is just a matter of keeping things straight as to whether you do one side or the other first. Go the other direction, in my personal opinion. All right, and then we're going to point and flex. All right, so this is where we're going to either just hug that leg, you can hold on to any way you like, and stretch that right side out, or you can reach in here, get hold of that left foot, so it's a little more like a lunge, and then we're going to reach through this left front of our hip and stretch up through the left arm. Oh, right hip, right arm. And stretch. Oh, I really want to feel this area right here on the front of my hip open up. Oh. Especially if you've had to sit it all today. Oh, it feels so nice to kind of make this hip flexor area a little more broad, bring a little more blood flow there. Last breath here. Oh, good. Now before I go too crazy, I'm going to bend this knee again so that gets softer. I'm going to let go of this leg, put the strap around the foot. Okay? That's all I'm going to do for right now, because I want to take this blanket and bring it underneath me so that I've got a little something for that leg to rest on. Now I'm going to get straight with this leg. And I'm going to feel out, like, where's the right amount of stretch. Like, if I pull myself to here, I can bring my leg to there. But the sensation here is so spicy that it feels like I'm kind of pulling at the connective tissue right at my butt bone. If I back off to here, I feel it in the center of my muscle still, but I don't feel that sharp pull on my butt bone. So that, for me, is the spot, right? It's pulling on connective tissue really forcefully is not particularly useful. It tends to tear or get abraded in some way, as opposed to really stretch. Connective tissue doesn't want to stretch. It wants to stay firm and strong. So there's this line in the Yoga Sutras that says, asanam shtiram sukham. And so what it means is that poses are meant to be steady or strong, sturdy, and also sukham is the same kind of root as the word sugar or sweetness, and so or to nourish, and so they're meant to have they bring us a sense of well-being, right? So they should be steady and strong, and they should have a sense of well-being. Well, our connective tissue is the shtiram tissue of our body, right? The skin, the muscle, the parts of us that kind of can be, you know, a little more fluid, those are more of those kind of sukham parts of the body. Okay, we got a little bit longer, about 3 more breaths. And so what we're doing when we kind of approach asana in any way is we want to make sure that we're keeping the sturdy tissues sturdy and giving the tissues that love that movement and that kind of tug, give them their nourishment, okay? So we're going out to the side. Now I've got a piece of furniture here, so I'm just going to rest myself on that and then reconnect to my core. If I didn't have that there, then I would have a pillow or something there. So this is still going to work for me. I can still feel it. And sometimes you have a small space. You got to work with what you got. And so this connection to my core is very helpful for me. I like feeling myself draw the sides of the waist in. So this sense, it's almost like you're, almost like you're pulling a little, you know, corset tight, or zipping up a really tight leather jacket. Just suck in the sides of your waist, so that there's a little structure there. And that's our deepest abdominal muscles. That action gets to our deep abdominals, transverse. So we're here and we're breathing, and we're going to stay a little while longer. Got about halfway here. Bring this like a little higher. And again, you can bend this knee, you can modify your shape, you can throw in some more support. You can come out of the pose a little earlier. It's all up to you. So we've got about 30 seconds left here. good. Take one more big inhale. And then again, we're going to come back towards the center here. We're going to take the strap off. I'm bending my left knee, and this guy is going to go on top of my right leg. So I'm just going to set those guys on top of each other. I'm moving this blanket over here so I can drop them over to the side and have something to land on. Okay, so you can unwind them and set them on top of each other a little bit more loosely. I just rotated my upper back to the ground so that when I stretch this arm out like a wing, it's got an appropriate amount of stretch across my chest muscle, and I'm also kind of feeling like my back, my spine is not being torqued in a way that's uncomfortable. So this is our twist. And I like the way it stretches out the side of the hip and all the way down the side of the thigh. And it's a sweet stretch. You know, it kind of leans more into that sukham and a little less, you know, a kind of sweetness. If it's too spicy, right, you can put a little more sugar in there. Balance out the spice. And same way that like when you're cooking, you know, cooking a meal, kind of taste your sauces and you just, you know, taste everything, decide how to spice it up. Same thing is true for our yoga poses. It's a metaphor, of course, but we're, you know, we're kind of feeling the pose, adding a little bit here, taking away a little bit there. Feeling for those moments that feel just right. Now we're going to stay here for about 3 more breaths. With your exhale, just bring that leg back to the center and let the other one follow it. And this is where we're going to let ourselves stretch out for Shavasana. So before I stretch my legs all the way out, I'm going to take this blanket that I've got here and I'm going to put it underneath my legs. And I start with my blanket really tight up against my hips. And then once I've stretched my legs out, then I kind of feel it. And if I want a little less, I can bump it down a notch. Okay? For me, closer to the hip is always better, but for some people, the knee is where the support needs to go, or closer to the ankle is where the support needs to go. And then I'm just going to take this blanket I've been laying on, I'm just going to cup the back of my skull with it, and then make these little adjustments, because I don't want it to be too thick, but I want just the tiniest amount of support at the back of my neck. All right, and then we're going to let the arms rest in whatever way makes sense. If it's better for you to keep your arms over your chest or belly, you can do that. You can let the arms rest out to the side. It can be more like a cactus. That's feeling kind of good. So choose your position. And then we're going to do the same thing we did at the beginning. We're just going to come home to the body. Different position, but it's nice to just notice again, where is my body right now? So physically, we're on our tiny little patch over the earth. Our sacrum connected to the earth right now through the floor. yet, but do just come back home to your body if your mind kind of traveled off into space. Feel the breath come and go a couple times. And then take a breath so deep you can feel it to your toes. Let it go with a big You can start to wiggle your fingers and toes and stretch everything. Bring your knees in, give yourself a little back massage. And when it feels like a good idea, you go ahead and roll yourself over to your side. Just take a moment there before you prop yourself up, or you could rock up to a seated position if that's a better one for you. Oh. Pardon me. Let's take a big breath together. Nice big inhale. Big deep sigh. Enjoy the rest of your night. Namaste, beautiful yogis.